obviously overnight, is having another issue that kind of contributes to the domestic agenda hits that he's been taking. Senate Democrats, they're not going to be able to include a pathway to legalization for millions of immigrants in their $3.5 trillion bill after some new guidance from the Senate parliamentarian. Where does this put them?
So they're going to attempt to try to revisit this, Brianna. There's, I think, 4 different efforts that pro-immigration reform advocates have been making in terms of the Senate parliamentarian. They're going to come back at this. The White House made clear they're going to come back at this on other pieces, but certainly it is a hit. And it is also just a reminder that this White House is playing this sort of triangulation move of, we're not going to have Congress, we're not going to push Congress to pass legislation. We are going to try other maneuvers because the majority is so slim and because there's so many members who might not go along with this. It avoids putting pressure on them. But at the end of the day, a key piece of immigration reform still doesn't get done. It's a blow any way you look at it, even for the people who say they were expecting it.
Yeah, this is key, John, to President Biden's agenda. He wants to move this thing along, and here you see that roadblocks are coming up against it.
They absolutely are. I think it shows the limits to larding up what you can pass in reconciliation. I don't think folks should get over themselves and say, the Biden agenda is doomed, but there are some serious hurdles, and this dream has a deadline on it, and the Biden administration needs to be totally focused on passing this. You can't make the perfect enemy the good. I think they know that. They need to start acting that way.
Yeah, it's like, where is the finish line in this race, right? That is the question here. Maggie, thank you so much. John, thank you. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's political future is in jeopardy as voters are heading to the polls today. Will his election gamble backfire?
Plus, accusations of widespread election fraud in Russia. Imagine that. As Putin's party is accused of a sweeping crackdown on his critics. We're live on the ground in Montreal and Moscow next.
As a Marine, I learned resiliency. But when I lost my job, my home, and was living out of my car, I felt like a shadow of that person. Now I'm working to end veteran homelessness. Nearly 40,000 veterans struggle like I did. But with the help of Rocket Mortgage and Built for Zero, my community has ended veteran homelessness. Yours can too. Join us. Visit ahomeforeveryvet.org to get involved.
Suntory's mission is to create harmony with people and nature. For over 120 years, Suntory has put sustainability at the core of our business. As a beverage company, we cannot survive without the blessings of water and nature. That's why it is our business imperative to continue tackling sustainability issues. For example, we're aiming to become net positive in water use globally by 2050. We are pursuing fully sustainable plastic bottles globally by 2030. And we are working to achieve net zero greenhouse gas emissions across the entire value chain by 2050. One company cannot solve these issues alone. We must partner with all stakeholders to tackle these challenges. Suntory is dedicated to accelerating this ambition across our business, now and in the years to come.
Without my medication, my small tremors would be extreme. I was diagnosed with Parkinson's. I had to retire from law enforcement. It was devastating. One of my medications is $3,000 per month. Prescription drugs do not work if you cannot afford them.
AARP is fighting for Americans like Larry, and we won't stop. That's why we're calling on Congress to let Medicare negotiate lower prescription drug prices.
Dignity. It demands that you can do simple things with ease while managing chronic pain. It demands a better understanding of your glucose levels so you can enjoy movie night, and that your heart stays connected to your doctor so you know it's beating as it should. At Abbott, we fight for these moments, developing life-changing technologies because dignity demands it.
Are you paying too much for car insurance? With Root, if you're a good driver, you could save up to $708 on your car insurance. And that gives you extra cash to buy something you really want. Visit joinroot.com to get your free quote today.
You trust Dr. Sanjay Gupta for insightful, informative advice on healthy living. Now, join him for a new season of his podcast, Chasing Life, where he explores science-backed solutions for a healthier you. Listen to Chasing Life on Spotify or your favorite podcast app.
This is a paid advertisement for legal services. Attention mothers. Was your baby hurt at birth? Is your baby missing developmental milestones? These are signs of cerebral palsy and Erb's palsy. Birth injuries that may be the result of medical malpractice. Medical mistakes can change your child's life forever. Seek justice and fight to hold the people at fault accountable. You may be entitled to compensation. Call Sokolov Law at 800-561-0916. 800-561-0916. I'm a non-attorney spokesperson.
At Fingerhut, we don't define you by your credit score, so we offer low monthly payments on things you need and brands you trust as you build your credit history with a Fingerhut credit account. You do you at Fingerhut.com.
Fingerhut credit accounts are issued by WebBank member FDIC.
Over 100 million Americans have a low credit score. Self is a new way to build credit that doesn't require a credit score. Plus, Self helps you save money every month and reports your payments to all 3 credit bureaus. Download the app today.
My name is Paul Franzak, but who am I really?
Election turmoil in both Canada and Russia today. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is in the fight of his political life, this time with Conservative leader Erin O'Toole, after making a big gamble to call the election 2 years before necessary. We have reporters standing by in Montreal and Moscow with the very latest. Let's start with CNN's Paula Newton in Montreal. What's the latest from there?
Yeah, you know what, John? This is going to be a suspenseful evening here. Justin Trudeau called this election, can you believe it, as you said, 2 years early, but in the middle of a pandemic. Some called it smart, others called it completely cynical. He looked at the poll numbers, said, hey, this is my chance. I can actually get more seats in Parliament, be able to govern the way I want. In the first few weeks of this campaign, and let me say, this is lightning speed here. Only 5 weeks here, John. Imagine getting done an election in 5 weeks. In the beginning, his polls were down, and that's what really crushed him at this point, with voters saying, look, why are we even having this election, considering we have a 4th wave here that's quite crushing? The other factor here is his main rival, Erin O'Toole. He is a Conservative Party candidate, an impressive resume. He is a former military captain, air navigator, corporate lawyer. But here's what he did, John. He moved to the center. He is unapologetically pro-choice, has a climate plan, and for a few weeks, Canadians certainly saw propelled his popularity to new levels. But right now, as this race has again focused squarely on the pandemic, the fact that Conservative Party and Erin O'Toole says, look, we are not for mask mandates. We are not for mask mandates. They are for masks. They're not for vaccine mask mandates. And they also are not disclosing exactly how many of their candidates have even been vaccinated. That has certainly given Trudeau an opening to really try and end strong with this campaign. I have to say, though, the ugliness is something Canadians also aren't used to. I want you to look at protesters actually throwing gravel at Justin Trudeau. Those were, again, those anti-vaccination protesters. It was shocking for many Canadians, and I can tell you, politicians in this campaign weren't just hit with stones, right? The rhetoric here was quite brutal at times. All of that has combined to really turn off many Canadians. Look, it's summer here. People just wanted to enjoy their last moments, especially as so many people have been dealing with COVID. So voter turnout will again be key. But also, this whole issue of misinformation. We have the People's Party of Canada. They are, again, anti-vaxxers first and foremost, and saying that, look, we will be able to be here for a voice for Canadians. They have tripled their support to 6%. And really, the misinformation has been breathtaking from a certain standpoint. John?
I gotta say, that doesn't look like or sound like Canada Nice, what you just showed us there. Paula Newton, thank you very much for that.
And developing this morning, the United Russia Party that supports Vladimir Putin is on track to keep its majority in parliament after this weekend's election. But critics are accusing officials of blatant fraud in an election where opposition was stifled. CNN's Matthew Chance is live for us in Moscow with more. Matthew?
Brianna, thanks very much. That's right, a big win for the party that supports Vladimir Putin, but that win has come amid widespread allegations of election rigging, and the fact that the real opposition in this country have not been permitted to stand at all. Russians have been casting their votes, but for critics, this is democracy at its worst. Accusing the Kremlin of blatant election fraud, some actually caught on official cameras. Watch the woman in black on the right, awkwardly trying to shield the ballot box as a hand appears from behind the Russian flag. You can see it repeatedly stuffing papers inside. Election officials say they've annulled these votes, but critics say thousands of violations, including ballot box stuffing and forced voting, are being ignored. In total, we've counted 12 cases of ballot stuffing in the whole country, in just 8 districts. The chief election commissioner brags on Russian state media. This is not hype, like from some information sources, she adds. From self-imposed COVID-19 quarantine near Moscow, the Russian president is shown using a controversial online voting system, which critics say allows even more opportunity to manipulate results. The system needs a mobile phone for verification, and there are questions about how Putin, who insists he never uses one, was able to cast his vote. The Kremlin says he used an assistant, denying this whole scene was staged. But critics accuse the Kremlin of carefully ensuring a win, despite flagging opinion polls, not just with the infamous poisoning of prominent critic Alexei Navalny last year, which officials deny, but also the moves since then, branding his supporters extremists, banning them and other opposition figures from standing for office. One rights group estimates hundreds of thousands of activists have been affected. To dent the ruling United Russia Party, Navalny's team have promoted what they call smart voting, using apps and videos like this one to show Russians which candidates, mostly old communists, stand the best chance of unseating incumbents. Controversially, Google and Apple have agreed to block the material in Russia, caving in to Russian legal demands. But even Kremlin critics who've been allowed to stand say they face extraordinary pressure. Like this candidate in St. Petersburg who found rivals on the local ballot paper had adopted his name and appearance to confuse voters. Russia's own election officials have called this a disgrace.
It's just across the street.
We met one veteran anti-Kremlin activist, himself poisoned twice and now barred from standing at a Moscow polling station. He admits this election may be lost, but Kremlin efforts to cling to power indefinitely, he says, will backfire.
We have a situation in Russia where there's now an entire generation of people that has no other political memories except Vladimir Putin's regime. He has been in power now for 22 years. That is a mind-boggling fact. And if the regime is preventing people from changing the government at the ballot box, sooner or later, people will change the government.
Another Russian revolution.
Unfortunately, again, it gives me no pleasure to say this.
But for now, revolution seems a long way off. Even winning a single seat in this tightly controlled Russian election would be something of an opposition coup. Well, in fact, the Russian Communist Party, which was responsible for the last Russian Revolution, has done significantly better in this election. It's up to about 20% of the vote. But in the past few years, they've been very compliant with the Kremlin, and nothing that has happened here has done anything to loosen the grip on power in Russia of Vladimir Putin. Brianna.
All right, Matthew Chance live for us in Moscow. Thank you. Massive breaking news in the pandemic. Pfizer has just released new data about the effectiveness of its vaccine in younger children. We're going to bring the results to you next.
Plus, a body has been found in the search for missing 22-year-old Gabby Petito. We have the latest developments coming up.
That was fun.
Alexa, play our dance playlist.
Your playlist, dance. Alexa, turn on the living room lights. Turning on lights.
Alexa, can you pause time?
Let's just enjoy the moment.
Hurry in for exceptional offers on the new BMW X3 with Alexa built in.
I know the best coffee spot in town. I can make a rustic cabin feel modern. I am a guidebook for guests. I can make an indoorsy person outdoorsy. I give families a home, not just a place to stay. I am a Vrbo host.
When America faces tough challenges, we find strength from within. This recovery is going to take energy, and we've got a choice on how we get it. Import energy from unstable regions or responsibly produce natural